I'm Abby Hogan, and I'm a freshman at the University of Arkansas. My major is pre-nursing, and I'm from Kansas City, Kansas. The Liberty Memorial is located in Kansas City, Missouri. It is directly across from Union Station, which is another Kansas City landmark. The National World War I Museum and Memorial was created by architects Harold Van Buren Magnoli and then White and White. After the Great War had ended, Kansas City leaders created the Liberty Memorial Association, or otherwise known as the LMA. Their goal was to create a meaningful, beautiful, and worthy monument for the men and women who served in World War I. The LMA raised a large amount of money and held a contest to pick an architect and design. In 1921, the site was ready to be dedicated, and more than 100,000 people gathered to see the Allied commanders dedicate the site. This dedication was the first time in history when all 5 leaders were together. The National World War I Memorial is composed of multiple aspects that come together to make a cohesive monument. The most notable feature is the Liberty Tower. This structure is 268 feet tall and contains 4 guardian spirits carved into the length of the tower. These spirits hold swords and are named for the virtue they represent: honor, courage, patriotism, and sacrifice. At the very top of the tower is the Flame of Inspiration, which can be seen at night. 2 sphinxes are located on opposite ends of the tower's base. The one that faces east is named Memory, and the other is named Future. A building is located behind each one of the sphinxes. The one on the east is Memory Hall, and the one on the west is Exhibit Hall. Memory Hall contains part of a monumental French painting of the Allied forces called the Pantheon de la Guerre, and a tablet listing the names of the many Kansas City natives that lost their lives in World War I. Exhibit Hall contains museum artifacts and another section of the Pantheon de la Guerre. Outside these 2 buildings are 2 limestone urns with a bronze laurel. These urns pay homage to the Army, Navy, and Red Cross. Another piece is the dedication wall, which shows bronze busts of the Allied leaders. Lastly, on the north wall is the Great Frieze. It is 148 feet by 18 feet and shows a transition from war to peace. Psychoanalysis deals with imagery, history, and creativity. The World War I Memorial contains all 3 of these essentials. The imagery of the World War I Memorial can be found most obviously in the sphinxes. The 2 huge sphinxes symbolize the horror of war. They shield their eyes because the bloodshed witnessed all over the world during this time period was unspeakable. Inside the base of the monument is a breathtaking poppy field. These flowers represent the countless lives that were lost in World War I. The bright red hue of the flowers draw comparison to the color of blood. History is the driving force behind this entire piece. Not only is it a memorial to the past, but it's also a history museum that continues to educate the public about World War I. This historical landmark made its own history when the leaders of the Allied forces gathered together for the first and only time to dedicate its groundbreaking. This piece also shows great creativity in the bold Egyptian revival-styled architecture. It is surrounded by modern buildings, and it feels like a bold statement in the skyline. Now, the Liberty Memorial can be categorized as belonging to the late 19th and early 20th century revival period. This movement can be defined by the deliberate use of historical styles. A more specific categorization is Egyptian revivalism, a contemporary take on the ancient structures of Egypt. The vague timeline of this type of architecture is around 1800 to 1850, and then again in 1920 to 1930. The memorial fits into this timeline, having been completed in the year 1926. The World War I memorial has many characteristics that exude the feeling of ancient Egypt. First, the memorial has a gigantic monolith that is synonymous with the classic Egyptian obelisk. The tower stands 265 feet tall and includes a flame at the top that reminds viewers of ancient pyres. The 2 sphinxes are also a staple to classic Egyptian architecture. The Great Sphinx in Egypt is arguably one of the most recognizable ancient pieces in the world, along with the Great Pyramids. The 2 buildings that sit near the 2 sphinxes show many Egyptian characteristics as well. They show flat rooftops, thick pillars, no windows, and are constructed from limestone. The Great Frieze shows a giant image of the perils of war and the tranquility of peace. The 2 ends shows these opposite states slowly coming together in the middle. Egypt has many large friezes, such as the frieze outside the Luxor Temple. This temple inspired multiple contemporary buildings. These 3 major aspects show how the architects looked to the past to create a lasting and unique statement. I chose this piece because I've lived in Kansas City my entire life and is a part of so many amazing memories I have of my hometown. When the Kansas City Royals won the World Series, me and my family sat on the monument's lawn and watched the massive parade. I took pictures there for my senior prom with my entire graduating class. This monument is something I've seen regularly my entire life, but is something I knew relatively nothing about. The architecture projects a sense of strength and permanence. I believe it's a powerful moving testament to the many men and women who sacrificed their lives during World War I.